Biodiversity is essential to all life on Earth. It delivers a range of ecosystem services which we all need to survive, as well as providing us with food, fuel, fiber, and medicine. It also regulates our environment. It stores carbon. It prevents flooding by storing water. And biodiversity in soil provides us with the essential nutrition that we need in our food. Biodiversity is also essential to controlling pests and supporting pollinating species as well. Without those, we simply wouldn't have the food we need to survive. And biodiversity is also critical for our mental well-being. We need it for education and we need it for recreation as well. So it delivers this broad plethora really of different ecosystem services that we all need to survive. So agricultural sprawl is the biggest single contributor to land use change globally. And what I mean by agricultural sprawl is more and more land that hosts essential biodiversity is being stripped back to grow crops and produce meat. Now, this is partly due to population growth. We're forecast to reach 10 billion people by 2050, but it's also due to increased global prosperity. So as people become richer, their diets change and they demand more of the products that we've become accustomed to in the Western world. So meat production is a key one. So the result of that is that more pristine land is being converted towards a globally consolidated diet where we're all eating more of the same things. We lack in that diversity that previous generations had, and biodiversity suffers as a result. So that's the kind of macro level changes. And then if you zoom in on the farm, we're seeing farmers under increased cost pressures. So yield is the primary method for them to escape all of that. If they can produce more and sell more, then hopefully that eases their financial concerns. And so what this means is we've seen things like hedgerows being stripped out. We've seen forests being stripped back. We're seeing more land on the farm being used to grow, whereas before there was a slightly more imbalanced relationship between land for biodiversity or land for nature and then the land used for production. So it's a combination of factors, population growth, global prosperity, and increasing cost pressures for farmers that I think is leading to this biodiversity loss globally. So we need to think about, rather than land sparing, so converting land into production or converting land into nature or retaining land for nature, I think we need to take more of a land sharing approach. So this means that we have farmers improving biodiversity alongside growing the food that we need, food, fuel, and fiber we need to survive. And so that might mean, for example, having wildlife margins around a plot. That might mean supporting an area of reforestation on the farm. That might mean re-wiggling a river so we don't have these straight rivers running through farms. We actually have ebbs and flows in rivers in a natural way. And there are lots of different techniques to measure the impact of those types of interventions. Conventionally, you might send a team of ecologists onto a farm to conduct a number of surveys. That could be to do a bird count or a pollinator count, for example. Those methods have served us well up to a point, but they're not scalable. And this is the sort of the crux of the challenge at the moment, is that we all want to measure and monitor this stuff, but we don't necessarily have the tools to do that. However, there is hope. There are exciting new techniques coming to the fore. So environmental DNA is one of those options. So we can measure and monitor biodiversity by taking samples of soil and water, and we can look at the DNA that's been left behind in those samples to provide us with an unprecedented insight into the number and type of species that are present in that environment. So rather than sending a team in to go and count those things, we can simply take samples and extract the DNA and sequence that against a database to give us a really clear understanding of what's present and what's not. There are also other methods of remote sensing, which are starting to become more and more popular now. So things like bioacoustics, which allow us to listen for types of insects and types of birds. I also read recently about a company offering bioacoustics for soil, which just blows my mind that you can put microphones into soil and listen to what's happening below ground. And we also have other remote sensing techniques like camera traps, and also drone sensing as well, satellite data. So there's a kind of a combination really of different methods that are coming through. I think what's really interesting, what's going to be critical to this is understanding how these techniques can complement one another, because there's no silver bullet out there. Not one of these techniques will provide all of the answers we need. But I think if we can start combining these techniques into a single platform or a single metric, then we're going to be in a much better place to report on biodiversity changes over time.